Hi everyone, this is Melissa from the Tassie Stitches. This is a FlossTube channel about cross stitch, and today we're going to talk about what I managed to work on last week and a little bit of what I'll be working on in the coming week. If you're new here, welcome, and I hope you find something that you enjoy looking at. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back and thank you so much for coming back to watch again. So the last week was been a bit of a tumultuous week personally for me, and I won't go into details, but it meant that I didn't do any stitching on Sunday at all. So for the week, I only managed 3,114 stitches, which is a little bit short for me, but I'm hoping I'll be able to make up those extra stitches that are missing over the next couple of weeks and still hit my monthly target. So we'll see how that goes. But I still do have 500 stitches, spare stitches up my sleeve. So if I don't make it, then they just won't get used and it'll get absorbed with that. Let's start off then with temperature stitching from last week. So temperature stitching I do in a similar fashion to Jen the Caffeinated Crafter, where I've allocated the last digit of each temperature to a whip. And then pick the forecasted high temperature and pick the whip based on that. I believe hers is based on Siska Stitch's original invention, where she had allocated a whip to every single temperature. This just narrows it down a little bit so you don't have so many to choose from. And where I live in Tassie, we don't have a lot of temperature shifts. We tend to stick within a fairly small range of temperatures. We don't have massive fluctuations very often. So this works best for me. So first up, for the number 8, we had baskets. So, not at the right point in my list. So baskets is by Rosewood Manor. I'm stitching this on a piece of 28 count even weave in the colourway Donkey that I have dyed myself, and I'm using the called for Valdani threads, and this got 100 stitches. So this is where we got to. So those 100 stitches finished off this basket up here, and then also started this little pot down here. And I think I also might have done a bit of yellow, a little bit of filling in here, and I think I filled in this middle there. So with this one, it's really just picking up the ninja stitches. There's not a lot left here. I think there's this pot to fill in, and there might be some back stitching like similar to this over here. And then we've got one little small section to finish off. So I can only see this maybe taking another maybe 300-ish stitches to get done based on what I think's still missing. But yeah, that's Baskets by Rosewood Manor. And I'll be very happy when that one's finished. And that'll stay in temperature stitching until it's finished. Next up for the number 3 was Castle Sampler, or what I call Castle Sampler. It's actually called Sampler number 14 by 2x2 Stitch Art on Etsy. I'm stitching this on a piece of platinum 40 count Zweigart 40 count in a Silks for You pack. So they do some seasonal packs, and this is the winter 2023 pack. So it comes with 6 colours, and so far I've used 3 of those, and this is where I am with it now. So I'm working in the green thread, and what I did last time was bring this inside across and then down. So that got 100 stitches as well. I really like the way this one is turning out, and I'm looking forward to getting to some out of the border soon and into some actual motif stitching. So that was Castle Sampler. The next one after that was Nature's King. So this was part of the Haid sale last year, and the artwork is by Carol Cavallaris. This got 200 stitches last week, and I'm still just coming down the edge here, filling in and making that back to a full block because the page finished halfway across that block, and last year I only finished exactly the 6 pages to meet the requirement. So that got 200 stitches for what potentially looks like a really boring piece to stitch because it's just a lot of browns and pinks. I actually really enjoy stitching on this one. It's probably the most I've ever done on one project in 1 year, last year to meet the hate sale, and I liked working on it. I didn't get sick of working on it. So that's really surprised me, and I may look at giving myself some bigger targets on some pieces again in a future year to come. So that was Nature's King. Next one was Northern Lights, and this is a piece by Kerrilyn Manning Designs. It's part of her Shooting Star collection. 28 count, even weave, 1/1 full cross. So this is Northern Lights. This got 100 stitches as well, and I'm chasing on this one. Just put this behind it. I'm chasing the really dark blue colour on this one at the moment. So all of my stitches were done in this really dark blue to meet the indigo prompt in the rainbow collection for semi-sane this month. So that got another 100. And this is again 28 count, 1/1 full cross. I do all my full coverage is 1/1 full cross, usually on an even weave. The next one was the number 9, and for me that is Letters from Hogwarts. So this is a piece by Cunning Cross Stitch. He has a Facebook page. This was a mystery Stitch Your Own Adventure sale from many, many years ago. It's now retired. I do believe he has another one up on his website if you're interested in a Stitch Your Own Adventure type sale. I'm not sure how far along it is and how much longer that one will be up, but I'm pretty sure there is one there if you're interested. So this is being stitched on 32 count even weave, and this was a custom die for me by Crafty Leanie, especially for this project. So this got 101 stitches, and I finished off this pumpkin, did some back stitching on the hippogriff because now I remember what it's called, and did a little bit of work down in the envelopes, just filling in the colours down there. So that's Letters from Hogwarts. And last up for temperature stitching for last week was Art Deco Cafe. So this is by Box and Fox on Etsy. I'm stitching this on a random piece of 25 count Zweigart fabric that I picked up from my local LNS. And this is where we're up to. And I did green stitching on this one. So I brought this light green colour down on the side of the hat here and then did a bit more here, and I think I did a couple of rows over here as well. I really like this piece. It's really easy to stitch because it's really just massive blocks of colour. Sometimes I don't like stitching massive blocks of colour, and other times all I want to do is stitch massive blocks of colour. So I actually really enjoy working on that piece if it's the right time for me to be working on it. So then last week's Deck of Whips is the next one up. So for me, the 7 of Spades was Band of Braves. Band of Braves is also one of my temperature pieces for this month, but it didn't come up as a temperature last week. I don't think it's come up as a temperature all month, actually. It's assigned to the number 6. But this was the Deck of Whips, so this got 300 stitches for the week. This is on a piece of 32 count even weave in the colourway Galvanised Bucket that I dyed myself. And the 300 stitches were filling in grass down here, filling in a little bit of this bison and a few of these little squares up the top there. Oh, and I also did these black flower stems. So that's Band of Braves by Long Dog Samplers. One of her few colour patterns. Don't see a lot of colour patterns by her, but she does have a couple. Then on to monthly stitching. So monthly stitching for this last week, I did a lot on the Extraordinary Bird Sale by Lola Crow Cross Stitch. So I did 909 stitches on this one. This is on a piece of fabric of the month from Crafty Leanie. It's quite an old one. I keep meaning to look up the fabric colour. I've got it in my bag, so I'll try and make sure I've got my bag with me next time. And this is where I got to. So last time you saw it, I had finished off, except for maybe a few stitches up the top, I finished off the frame. So this time I started working in part 1, and so that was filling in all of this water here. So this got, actually I think since you last saw it, I hadn't finished off the frame. So it's all my work has been done in the bottom on that side. So not a lot of it was hidden by the Q-snap, some of it. So it's all been filling in here. And yes, this was just the 400-ish stitches I think I've done recently. This got 909 stitches in the last week. 700 of those were towards the Down Under Divas Challenge for 2,000 stitches for a pattern that starts with the letter E. And 200 stitches went towards the other Down Under Divas prompt that it's down for, which is E for egg. So this got all up 909. And I was looking, this probably won't come out much after this month, so after this month I'll only owe it 200 stitches to meet its goal. Its birthday is in May, so I may save up those 200 stitches and do them in May. And then I reckon that'll be the last time we see this one. Unless it's the only one that meets a prompt moving forward. But I don't think it is. Because I've pretty much done all my planning moving forward. So I don't think, we'll probably see this one. Once this gets its extra 300 stitches in it, we probably won't see it again. So this is 28 count, 2/2, called for DMC. If I don't say everything I do is called for DMC. Next up is the Modern Folk Embroidery Sale from 2021, Fruits of Plenty. I'm stitching this on a piece of 40 count flax from Zweigart, and I'm stitching it using a colour Cottage Garden thread and just a DMC. The Cottage Garden thread is Dragonfly, and it's a beautiful orange and pink variegation, and then the orange is a DMC colour. If you'd like to know what colour it is, just leave me a message below. I'm happy to share that with you. This got 601 stitches, and they were all done over here, bringing this down and stitching the squirrel, and then a few of the fruits up here. I'm really liking the way this one is turning out. I love Jacob's patterns. There's a lot more stitching in them though than you think, but I do love them. So that's Fruits of Plenty, and that's Down Under Divas for a pattern that starts with F. And after this week, it still needs another 1,200 stitches to meet its monthly goal. So we'll see that one at least one more time, possibly two. Then I worked on the Pain-Free Craft sale from a few years ago. I can't remember what year, but it was the one artwork by Chris Dunn, inspired by Wind in the Willows. This got 201 stitches on it. I'm stitching this on a piece of 32 count linen. I think it's a Witchelt linen, and it's a really pale green colour. I can't remember the colourway, but it's one of those crunchy, stiff linens, so not for everyone. And I'm just when I'm not working down in the rabbit corner, the full coverage corner, I tend to work on the border a bit. So what I did this time was bring this down. I think I did a little bit down this side, but then I brought this down and did these. So that was 201 stitches. This is meets the prompt E for eye this month. There's a lot of eyes on the pattern. It has another 300 stitches to go to meet its goal. So we'll see that one at least once more. Second last one was Black Vintage Sampler. So this is a piece by Our Forest Embroidery, and it's on there for designer. So I looked it up like I said I would last week, and the designer behind Our Forest Embroidery, and I'm probably going to pronounce this incorrectly, so I apologise in advance, Galina Igorenkova. So that is the designer behind Our Forest. I'm not sure if she does all their designing, but she is the person who designed this piece. So I'm stitching this on a piece of 22 count hardanger that I dyed myself in the colourway Dove, and I'm stitching it 1/1 with a mystery Silks for You that I got in a mystery pack. It's orange, green, purple and black, so it's kind of a Halloween-y type feel thread. My son picked the thread out of the pack for this one, but I wasn't planning on doing this in black anyway. I was leaning more towards a blue, but he picked this one when we got the mystery pack. So that's what we're doing. So this one got 200 stitches, and what that was finishing off the bat, doing this little lantern and starting on this little motif here. So that's now had 600 stitches so far this month and has another 400 to go to meet its goal for a designer starting with E. Then the last piece that I worked on this week was Patchwork Sampler. This is by Yarn Hauptmann, and I'm not stitching it in the colours shown on the pattern. I'm picking my own colours as I go. I'm using this. The idea behind starting this piece was to use it for colour prompts when I didn't have a colour. And that's what I'm doing this month too. So this is being used for a colour that starts with E or F, and I have gone with DMC Forest Green at the moment. And so I'm working on this motif here. This is, I don't think this motif's going to make 1,000 stitches. I think that was a little bit of an advantageous guess for me. So we will pick another colour that starts with E or F and work on this. I'm pretty sure I've got some eggplant that needs finishing up here. So I'll finish that off, but I don't think that'll make it either. So we'll have to pick another colour and go again. But this got 200 stitches. So I think it was all in here and down here. And I really like the way this piece is coming out. It's kind of nice not to know what colour's coming next, and although a couple of my colour choices are a little bit suspect, I've been told by my friends, I kind of like it, so that's all that matters. And this is 28 count, just antique white, even weave, 2/2. So that's all the stitching that I did last week. So let's talk about the temperature stitching coming up for this week, including today. So the forecast temperatures are 21, 18, 22, 22, 19, 22 and 21. So 21 we saw was Art Deco Cafe. So I'll just show you the picture again. So that piece is going to get another 200 stitches in the coming week. Don't know what colours. I might just go back to stitching it in the typewriter method. I don't think I'm chasing any colours on that one this week, unless I continue green for semi-sane. See how we go. Next up is baskets. So we saw that one earlier as well. So this will continue just to do random stitching. It's right down the bottom of my pile, so I'm not going to show you. But I reckon I'll be moving the Q-snap down, and you can see on here, we'll be coming down into that last layer underneath that big vase there with the big flowers, and finishing off that little motif to the side, and then coming down and filling in the gaps in the birds and that final bottom motif down there. So that'll get 100. I don't think that'll finish it, but it'll hopefully go close. The next one up is Sampler Patchwork Squares. So this is a piece by Nara X Stitch on Etsy. And I'm stitching this on 28 count even weave. And this will be the starting point. And this is going to get, I forgot to hide baskets. So this will be, get 300 stitches in the coming week. And I'm stitching this blocks on the diagonal unless the colour runs across. So we'll just keep working down in the diagonal on that one. I really like the colours in this one, although they're not as green as in, I think, as in the picture, but I still like the way it's coming together. And that was one of the projects that I started last year for my birthday month. And then the last temperature that came up for next week is Harry Potter. And with that one, I'll just continue probably working on the envelopes down the bottom. Because I'm pretty sure I've finished all of the ninja stitches in that corner parchment now. So I'll just be working the cross stitch across the bottom, the coloured cross stitch, and doing the back stitch on some of those envelopes. Because much like baskets, this now has a lot of ninja-y type stitching to fill in. And that's kind of just what I'm working on. So this may or may not stay as a temperature whip. I haven't decided yet. I'll just have to make an evaluation of how much I think is left on it before I do that. But I do know there's a prompt coming up in Down Under Divas that it could be used for in the future. So I might pull it and leave it for that. But we'll just see. So that was temperature stitching for next week. Then there's a couple of other things I know I will be touching in this coming week. So the first one is Pandemic by Long Dog Sampler. So this was released free back at the start of the pandemic. Oh, wrong one. Sorry, that one. And I got the pattern then, but I didn't necessarily start stitching on it straight away. Oh, that's the thing. Oh, it's back there. It's Castle Sampler again. So Pandemic, I'm stitching on Platinum 32 count Belfast Platinum from Zweigart. I'm stitching it 2/2 in Silks for You. And these are just random skeins that I started collecting from the Sassy pouch. And then once I've used those up, I will move on to just other random skeins of Silks for You that I have. I'm basically taking the skein and stitching it where it makes sense until it runs out, and then picking another skein and moving on. This is where I am. And I'm currently working on this rainbow colour in here. And I've got 500 stitches to do on it, and that will probably all happen tonight. So I'm going to finish filling in here and then decide where to go. I'll either come down here, or if there's a motif down here that makes sense, I'll do that. So it'll all be in that area. We'll just have to see where I decide to go when I finish this motif here. So that's going to get 500 stitches into it tonight. Just because I can't use it towards, or I don't want to use it towards any fandom weekly prompts at the moment, because I'm using it for one of their other challenges. So it needs to get finished for that challenge before I can use it for weeklies. So I like working on this one. It's a fairly quick stitch. So I'll probably just do the full 500 stitches on that tonight. And then the other one that has a birthday in the coming week that will get worked on is one of my needlepoint pieces that I don't think you've seen this year. Sorry. Oh, excuse me. So this is Long Time Gone Stitching by Beautiful Stitches. I picked my own colourway, so mine looks a little bit different. And needlepoint is not my forte, but this is where I'm up to. And I think at the moment I'm working up here in these, I think they're called Scotch stitches. So this will only get the equivalent of 100 stitches. These, if I get in the groove on these, I don't mind working on them, but I'm just not in the mood for working on these at the moment. So I'm just doing the bare minimum when they come out. So I can't see that getting any more than it's, I'll put it away later, any more than my planned 100 or 100 equivalent stitches on that one. So that's some plans of what I've got coming up that I know I'll be stitching on next week. Otherwise, I'll just be working on the rest of my Down Under Divas projects for the month. The only prompt that I've actually met so far is prompt number 1 for a pattern that starts with E, but Extraordinary Birds is still being used for one of the other prompts this month as well. So I haven't put a project away yet this month. So we'll just keep working on them. So the last thing to do is draw the deck of whips, and I haven't been as organised as normal, so just bear with me while I separate out the cards that have been drawn and give these a shuffle. So hopefully in the coming week I'll be able to catch up some of those 400 missed stitches. See how we go. So the card for deck of whips, and I'll just pull up my list, is the 3 of hearts. And we haven't had many hearts, so that's good. Right, so the 3 of hearts for me is actually a project that I've already completed. So this will then move to a start that I've already started. So just bear with me and I'll go and grab one of those. 1 second. Okay, so as you can see, the only start I've actually had this year is Spring Garden Band Sampler. So this is the style from Stitching Cabin this year. So if you're interested in joining, you can go along to her website and purchase this pattern. I have started working in the March section. I started that last month and did a little bit of stitching on it this month. So I'm in the section with the butterflies, so just underneath the gumboots. And this will get 300 stitches for Deck of Whips in the coming week. And this is my starting point. So this is 1/1 on 40 count in a piece of Elizabeth fabric that I dye myself. And we'll just have to see how I feel, whether I continue on with this motif down here or whether I go back in and fill in some of the pinks and the greens on the butterflies. So that will be good because that hasn't come out for temperature stitching at all this month either. So that'll get that on for Deck of Whips as well. So I hope that you enjoy working on your Deck of Whips piece if you're playing that game for this week. And thank you very much for joining. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully I'll be able to catch up my stitches or at least hit my 3,500 for the week. And we'll see you next week. If you'd like to subscribe, like, leave a comment, please feel free. I don't get many comments and that's fine. But when I do read them and I do try to respond. So thank you very much and I'll see you again next week. Bye.